Welcome back to STL Live. I'm Sarah Thompson, and my guest is Marc Gordon, Executive and Artistic Director of the Chamber Music Society of St. Louis. And I want to actually pick back up off something you said, where you were talking about the cabaret style and the intimacy of the concerts, and you're able to see and feel the musicians and have this experience. How should an audience member, should they read into the body language and facial expressions of a musician as they're performing? I mean, is that
Sure.
fair?
Yeah, of course. And that's part of what's special about the way we do our concerts, the informality, and being in close proximity to the musicians, as you mentioned. You not only hear it, but you can feel the vibrations. You watch the musicians' faces and how they communicate. If you have a string quartet, there's no conductor. So they have to be in very close communication with each other. And sometimes it's a wink, sometimes it's a smile, because hopefully they're having fun, and that's contagious. The audience gets it.
I think it's interesting too that you bring that point up, because I think from a mainstream perspective, people might be used to that with jazz bands or a jazz ensemble, right? The whole idea is you're kind of like playing and creating together and hearing the bars and notes. But in classical music, I think there might be the assumption that you're not necessarily doing the same thing because you're reading music or something like that. And you're saying that's not the case. There's definitely the shared vibration of the music.
Right. And one of the things I think that musicians who play in an orchestra, which I did in the St. Louis Symphony for 33 years, when you play chamber music, you have more autonomy, and you are in a position where you can express yourself and not having to succumb to the wishes of the conductor. We're all slaves to the composer's works, but there's a lot of give and take within that. So that's what makes chamber music appealing to the musicians, and then the audience benefits from watching the process.
So we were talking how you theme things up and you come up with these great titles. Are you the one coming up with the titles? I mean, the Russians are coming, I know it's the film, but...
Yeah, mostly my wife Susan, who is a co-founder and is a violist, she contributes a lot too. Yeah.
So that's going to prompt the reason I bring that up, to prompt our next one, your next concert after the Russians are coming. What's the title?
It is The Grateful Dead, spelled G-R-E-A-T, full dead, composers, that is. So an obvious play on the Grateful Dead rock band. And that came to me.
No Jerry Garcia lookalikes will be there.
Well, I do wear Jerry Garcia ties. This isn't one, but one of our supporters and subscribers is a Deadhead. And at a lunch where I was sitting there asking him for money, we got on the subject of the Grateful Dead. And I always remembered that he was a fan. And so that's where the title came from, kind of like a nod to him. A
nod to and the Grateful Dead. I love it, because which composers are you going to be?
So the two big ones will be Schubert and Mozart and Beethoven, the three big ones. And the Beethoven is the Beethoven Septet, which is a wonderful piece that mixes two wind instruments with the strings. And so it's the main piece on the program. Do
you ever do, and I know we've had you here before and talked about with the season, the composition, but works that are of current composers that are perhaps composing for chamber music? Or is it always going to be chamber music? No, is it correct? It's always from that certain era, correct?
Well, no, there are more contemporary composers that do write it, but we're very conservative in the programming. And there are other organizations in town that specialize in doing contemporary music. We do not. But we have done composers, a few that are still alive, and then more like American composers, Copeland, Thompson.
Thank you for making that distinction. Was that just a horrible embarrassment?
No, not at all. Not at all, because the chamber music certainly came from that time. Smaller venues, like here we have this amazing hall, Powell Hall, 2,700 seats. But you can't call that a chamber because it's so big. But the original Mozart symphonies were small groups and for smaller audiences.
Well, that's why I always love talking to you, because I learned so much about this, and it's really, really quite fascinating.
I'm just making this up as I go along.
All right. Don't listen to anything, right? We've got the information there for you on the screen. Go check it out. The Russians are coming. It's the first season opener for the Chamber Music Society of St. Louis. It's taking place October 9th through the 10th at 7:30 p.m. at the Sheldon Ballroom in Grand Center. For more information about tickets and any information about the evening, go to chambermusicstl.org. There's more STL Live right after this. Please stay with us.